All right, we are live with a bonus edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast. We are here with Scott and Mallory of SH. I want to make sure I'm saying this right. Is Armory or
Amory.
Armory? Okay.
Amory. Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, so tell us a little bit about what you guys got going on. I know you said you teased a little bit before we got on here about some new products and everything like that. So why don't you give us a breakdown about what it is and some of the new products you got rolling out for the conference?
Cool.
We're excited. You want to go for it?
Sure. I'll kind of kick things off and go from there. Yeah, we launched Amory in April of 2020, so almost exactly 2 years ago. We'll be celebrating its second birthday at the conference, so I have some things in store for that. But essentially, what started as, and grab one here for everybody. There's a card game. It was really meant to be a fun side project for us to work on. I'd gotten interested in Bitcoin, kind of similar to you, Brandon, like we're talking about in the 2017, 2018 space. Kind of dragged Mallory along from there. And as it kept diving down the rabbit hole, wanted to be more involved. Both of us have a slightly different, but background in the education space, as well as being parents. So we realized there wasn't a lot of content or products out there for fun educational ways for all ages of people to learn. And so that's where the idea for the game came about. So it's good for kids or adults. You don't need to know anything about Bitcoin going in. It plays similar to the game of memory. And it really teaches concepts built around Bitcoin mining. And so from the game went so well that we ended up saying, well, we want to keep growing this stuff. Last year, we launched a book called Goodnight Bitcoin. So similar to Goodnight Moon. And our goal really, as we keep growing things, is to kind of be that go-to spot for, like I said, fun educational ways for kids or adults to kind of have that orange pill and easy ways to start learning and kind of grow from there. So that's a quick glimpse of our background.
Awesome. So yeah, you kind of touched on it on your orange pill timeline, but why don't you get into your orange pill story? Like, how did you find Bitcoin, and how did you, I guess, how did you end up convincing Mallory here that not some crazy internet money?
Yeah, your time started a little earlier than mine, then I can jump in and give my side of things.
So mine started, like I said, late 2017, 2018, kind of the end of the last bull run, kind of caught my attention. The first time I remember hearing about Bitcoin, I want to say it was probably 2012, 2013. I remember watching a local news channel here, and they were doing a story about the first Bitcoin ATM. For whatever reason, that always stuck in the back of my head. Obviously, never did anything about that at the time, which is unfortunate, but still, it all works out in the best ways. And, from there, I just kind of, besides, investing, just kind of started learning more through podcasts, books, that sort of thing. My background is, like I just mentioned, a mixture of education as well as accounting. So I kind of have the math brain mixed with some of the other concepts that kind of come intuitively to the Bitcoin ethos. And I think from there, obviously, being married kind of and from the investment side of things, having to have both of our buy-in is kind of where Mallory's story picks up.
Yeah. So Scott, I'd say, would start bringing up conversations around Bitcoin around dinner or late night, we're watching TV. He'd throw out, some comments. And to be quite frank about it, I was not very interested. I like to be transparent. It was kind of over my head and it was what it is. But we started, investing more, allocating more and more money to it. And I think that's when you start paying attention a little bit more. But even then, I was semi-interested. But when Scott decided, us together decided to make this card game kind of as like a little side project that we wanted to do. And the purpose of it was to educate the people around us, some family members, some friends, in like a fun, easy way about Bitcoin mining. That's when I started being a little bit more interested because my background is in education. So the idea of being able to educate somebody in a fun, hands-on way piqued my interest. So that's when I kind of dove in. And then last year we were at the Bitcoin conference down in Miami, and the feedback for the card game was so overwhelming. And we were meeting with families who would come up to us and say like, oh, this card game brought my family together. This card game made my uncle or made my kid interested in Bitcoin. And now we have conversations. That's when I was like all in. I was like, this is really something that is fun for families. It's working. Like people are giving us positive feedback about it. And ever since then, I've been all into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So, I guess let's go back to the story of you guys making this game and creating it. So, I know you guys said you both had, both have education backgrounds, but what kind of drove you guys to bring it to a card game? And then, I guess a follow up question to that is, your experience during the creation of the card game. Did it kind of help you, both of you, I guess, fully understand, everything surrounding Bitcoin? Did it help with your own personal education as well?
For mine, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's when I started learning more and more about it. And it was Scott really instructing me as we were making the game. Like, that's the first time that I really started understanding the basic elements, such as like a nonce, a target, a genesis block, this idea that they would build on top of each other. All of that comes from the game. You have to know nothing to play it. And then you leave the game with that information. And quite honestly, a lot of it I was learning it as I went, but Scott had already known that, and he was breaking it down into the digestible way that it was.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of as I was learning more about Bitcoin. I've never mined Bitcoin myself, but kind of being able to break things down into a digestible way is kind of the way my brain works. And so as I learned more about mining in a very rudimentary, simple way, it kind of clicked in the back of my head where, okay, there's lots of stuff going on, but at the end of the day, it's all about a nonce and a target. And if those two things sync up, that block's mined and away we go. And that's when I said, oh, that's similar to the game of memory.
Mm-hmm.
So the game itself is played very similar to the game of memory, where there's, a bunch of cards laid down on the table. All of our stuff is built around these fun kind of monster characters that are there. So here's one of the targets. So you'd have the nonces flipped face down on the table with a target set. You're trying to find that matching one in a competitive way. So instead of computers using energy to create the hash to be able to go through and create that competition, you're using your mental energy to be able to remember where those matches are, to be able to get that match, mine the next block, get a reward, and go from there. So it was that simple nonce target, kind of just very simple connection that clicked in the back of my head, that then I brought it over to Mallory that said, okay, it's a game we're all familiar with. That's why you need to know nothing to play. We're just kind of spicing it up with some Bitcoin ins and outs weaved in.
Nice. So you kind of fooled her, right? So
exactly.
Exactly.
I fooled her in too.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, right? So you fooled her to tell her, all right, let's create this game, let's create this project, but at the same time learn Bitcoin. That's an interesting way to tell her, hey, let's learn about this crazy internet money that most people think about. But good on you, and get on that. So you guys kind of brought it up already a little bit about your the reaction you had at Bitcoin Miami of last year. But who are you who is your target audience when you were kind of making this game? And are you seeing it more so like, I guess, people using the game to orange pill people their same age, or is it mostly kind of as like an education resource for children?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Surely
there's so many ways to answer that.
A wide range. So,
take it however you want. Let's
So the biggest one probably still is kind of Bitcoiners who are parents, especially for the book, since that's for that younger audience. But the nice things that we've seen, like Mallory was alluding to, especially at the conference last year, is the game and the book are things that can orange pill anybody. So for the game, for example, going back to mining, we've had conversations with companies in the mining space who have said, this is the simplest and fun way I've ever seen mining explained. We want to be able to use this as an onboarding tool for our employees, or for new investors, or for merch or swag that we're going to give away, and that sort of thing. And the nice thing also is the game's STEM authenticated. So for those who are familiar with kind of the traditional education space, science, technology, engineering, and math. So we have that authentication where, if you're a teacher at a school or a STEM center, being able to go to your principal, whoever, and say, hey, I want to start building curriculum about Bitcoin. I have one way I'm going to do it is through this game, and hey, it's also STEM authenticated already. So just that kind of badge of authority can go a long ways in that traditional space while they catch up to everything going on. But yeah, kids, adults. One of the fun stories that we heard probably about 6 or 8 months ago was somebody who had started playing with their family, grandparents, them, and their kids. And like 2 or 3 weeks later, the grandfather went out and started mining Bitcoin himself.
Oh, wow.
Which is a crazy reaction.
Yeah, so that's extreme. But
we haven't heard that since,
no.
But it's an amazing example.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard one of the other good things that I love hearing is, and that came up at the conference, is that families came up to us and they said to us, this game is so unique because it's a collaborative game and a little bit less competitive. So when our kids sit around, what we realize is that if everybody collaboratively works together to mine the blocks from the Genesis block to a block height of 10, everyone wins. But if you're hacked, then no one wins. So it took out that competition sometimes you see between siblings where one person wins, and everybody else is a loser. There is an independent winner. Whoever ends up with the most Bitcoin rewards wins. But ultimately, everyone at the table is collaboratively working to mine their blocks. So that was a fun way. I don't even know if we really intended it that way when we made it. But the idea of a collaborative family game is nice too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so it seems like it's bringing people together from all ages. So, yeah, good on you there. Well, let's dive into a little bit of the children's book. So is this your first one that you've written, and then what kind of made you guys transition from a card game to more so of a book format?
Yeah, this is our first book that we've ever written, and it was inspired by our daughter. So we have a daughter; she's 2 years old. Her name is Charlotte. And one thing that both Scott and I firmly believe is that kids are much more capable of learning at a higher level than we probably give them credit for. So in our parenting, we do a lot of adult conversations made a little bit more simply, So we talked to Charlotte about Bitcoin, even though she's just 2. And she has a general idea that it's a form of money, that you can pay with it, that the value, can go up and down. Like she has a solid understanding of it. And one of the things that she can do is that she can recognize the classic B for Bitcoin, because kids, they're all about like recognizing little things. So we wanted to take it a step further. And again, when we started looking into children education products in the Bitcoin world, there wasn't anything at all. So our love for reading to her, combined with wanting to teach her real things about Bitcoin, inspired the book. So it's really cute. It's the characters from the card games. And it goes through, it's a little monster named Satoshi, meets up with a friend named Hal, and together they work with monsters all over the globe to create a new form of money. And they do it, like it's some really fun illustrations. They do it, and there's, little things about blocks, about nodes, about sats. It's the whole thing. So it's a fun story.
Yep. And the nice thing is, obviously for those toddlers who are interested in it, they're not reading itself yet. So it could be, going back to maybe the grandparent is over and reading it to the kids, and the grandparent has no idea what Bitcoin is, mm-hmm. But in their back of their head, if they're gonna start now seeing it. So yes, it's a children's book, but the adults got to read it to the kid in many cases, and that's kind of doing the orange pilling itself as well. I know Mallory's seen that with her mom a few times, asking questions as she's read it to Charlotte. So it does do a nice job of getting that education across to the adults too.
Yeah, and it makes it like in an easy digestible format as well. So I think that's what a lot of kids, at least my age, I'm in my late 20s, and some of the adults, even my parents, when I try to bring it up to them, a lot of things, I start to get into it, the ins and outs, and it gets really intimidating to them. So then they kind of zone out initially. So I think this is a great way, exactly what you're saying, children's book and a card game to kind of get everybody together and collaboratively kind of learn just organically. What kind of got me into personal finance was Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's kind of a classic book, and his thing too is really pushing the games, and with financial education, I know he's got a couple of them as well. So I think this could be very great for the Bitcoin space going forward. So I'll go a little bit off from your Bitcoin related stuff and go more towards the education realm. So do you think the current education system is I know there's a lot of reform going on, especially in the state of Florida, where I'm at right now. Governor DeSantis actually just passed something that says in high school you have to pass a financial literacy test as part of your graduation to receive your high school diploma. Do you think that there's a I guess, kind of more of a shift that you guys are noticing as far as like financial education goes, or do you still think there's still kind of a gap when it comes to the traditional education system?
There we go.
Sure.
I think we probably both have
I think we have similar views on
similar
this.
views and probably strong views. So yeah, I think there's definitely shifts going on in many ways with the traditional education space. And like you were alluding to, I would kind of characterize the shift for the financial education is probably happening faster for the individual. So like the kids or the parents recognizing that it's needed, and then schools are going to slowly be dragged along because that's typically how it happens in those spaces. Schools are the last to adapt and change and be innovative, and they don't really have the incentive to because they're getting the money no matter what. As long as the kid shows up, they're going to have that funding to be able to keep going on the next day. So teachers need to have the incentive to change, and they also like being spoon fed. And so as people, especially when it comes to Bitcoin, so one of the great things over the past year plus is we've got to meet a lot of other people who are looking to educate around Bitcoin, and they've started building curriculum both on its own and built around our products. And as that curriculum gets built, being able to say, hey, teacher XYZ, you're teaching, sixth grade. Here is, out the box, here's some curriculum that you can implement for financial education that teaches about Bitcoin as well. You don't, need to go off and create this on your own. So they like that spoon-fed nature of what they're going to teach in most cases. And hopefully as people that are building this create more and more of it, that's going to be kind of initiating the change for that financial side.
I gotcha. All right, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's definitely a long ways to go from what I can tell, but I think that they're, like you're saying, they're starting to move towards that direction. There's kind of sort of being a shift towards that direction too. And I think, one thing that Bitcoin is really doing is it's kind of opening up, a lot of people's eyes and curiosity to the problems that are in the current financial system that we're in. And I think a lot of people are starting to recognize that and realizing like, hey, this expected 2% inflation every year, really isn't a good thing for us. So, yeah, I think Bitcoin's kind of helping change the education a lot. And I think, a lot of the current events that are going on now are kind of shifting that, drastically. So you guys are both parents, and in California, have you noticed, I guess, other parents kind of educating their children up there as well? And are you kind of just, I guess, spreading the knowledge to, similar, I guess, your parent or your kids' parents, friends, or whatever? Like, how are you guys spreading the word of Bitcoin to, I guess, the masses?
I think the biggest way is probably just through the game and the book.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing we both, our personalities, we're not too pushy. So all of our friends and family, they know what we're doing. They know where our interest has been. They know about the games, the books. As they become more interested and want to ask questions, there's definitely been some who have asked those questions, made their first purchase, that sort of thing. So they know where to find us, and we're always open to chat and tell and learn. But I think we're both firm believers in the person, whoever it is, probably needs to be ready whenever that step is to be able to start learning these things. Because if you're just being told something similar to school, you're probably not as likely to go down the rabbit hole and become actually interested. So I think that's probably the biggest way that we've gone about it, like just talking about the work, being like, oh, we're going to a conference, then be, oh, what are you going to the conference for? So just those little kind of interactions. And, I've had friends who, a year later have come back and said, oh, I think I'm ready to, buy Bitcoin for the first time. How should I do it? And so, who knows, it could have been some random thing I said a year ago, or Mallory said a year ago, that then let them remember that. So just kind of ease them into it. Like it could be scary, as we all know, the first time you go down those paths and being uncomfortable. And like you said, financial education is something that a lot of people never learn. I know we never really learned it in school.
I really remember learning it in school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you kind of feel uncomfortable to begin with, and then it's some weird thing called Bitcoin that you probably only heard the crazy stories about, and kind of just let the person become comfortable in whatever way. And probably if you know them well, trying to figure out, is something, are they going to be most interested in, money go up? Or are they going to be most interested in hearing about how it's helping people in Africa or El Salvador or Guatemala? what's the angle that person's going to gravitate towards most, and you can kind of steer the question that way, or the learning that way, would be another tip.
Yeah, I think I've talked to a few different people about this too, and one of them is Bitcoin Stoa, or at Nobody Caribou on Twitter. He was big in the Canadian trucking convoy, and his big thing was, when he's coming up to these people, just gaining their trust initially. So kind of along the lines that what you guys were saying is, if you know the person, or don't come at them so strong, and tell them about Bitcoin immediately. Maybe get to know the person first, and that'll kind of help them trust you, and then not think you're trying to scam them out or anything like that as well. So do you guys think that your education background has kind of played a role into I guess your ability to educate the masses and educate your friends and family on Bitcoin? And how do you think that that's helped you?
Yeah, I think so. So my education background, I'm not a teacher, but I do work in helping high school students who have disabilities of various sorts plan for their life after high school. And I focus mainly on employment. And with that, I talk a lot about the freedoms that come with being an adult. And you have to be financially set. And what does that mean? And what kind of life is it that you want as an adult? Do you want to sit at a desk, 9 to 5? Do you want something, a 3-day a week, 12-hour shift? Like, there's a lot of things that I work with my students to talk with them about. And I think it rolls over nicely, because or at least when I think about like how Bitcoin has affected my life, one of the things it's done is it's brought a lot more freedom, and it's let us live out a dream that we maybe otherwise wouldn't have. Before COVID, we both worked in an office 9 to 5, very typical jobs. We barely saw our daughter. We picked her up and then put her to bed, and we really hung out with her on the weekends. And it wasn't for us. It wasn't what we wanted. And luckily, Scott now does, Amory full time, and it's allowed us to travel more. It's allowed us to educate people. It's opened up a huge network of individuals that we've met, through podcasts or through Zoom or whatever it is. And it's gained us freedom that truly we wouldn't have without Bitcoin, the opportunities it's allowed us to have. So I talk about that too. I'm open when I'm educating people, but I think being able to think forward and think like, what kind of life do I want, and what can I do to make that happen? That's something that works in my career and when I talk with other individuals.
Yeah, no, that perfect sense. I think part of, I think it kind of helps that. So Mallory, like you said, she kind of had that counselor type background. My education background was in the ed tech space, so I worked on products and selling into schools and that sort of thing. So it was a kind of a nice mixture of Mallory has kind of the more hands-on learner viewpoint, where I had more of a product viewpoint. So being able to merge those two things together when we've created everything we've created and brought those things to life, I think has been helpful through the experience as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's bring it back to, I guess, the Bitcoin space. So you guys said that you got a very positive response last time you went to the Bitcoin Miami conference. One thing that I've noticed is that the Bitcoin space is very encouraging to entrepreneurs and to people just educating, and I've really enjoyed being in it. Just following as an outsider, and making connections this past year when I've been creating content as well. So what has been your favorite part of being a part of the Bitcoin community? And, what are, I guess, some of the things that have you've learned because of, maybe even connections you've made through Twitter or other experiences that you've had?
Want me to go first?
Sure.
I think my favorite part of the community has been the relationships. I'm huge on relationships. It's what fuels me. It's like what gets me out of bed. I just love meeting people, and I love forming like real relationships and having real conversations with people. So the relationships have been, it's so exciting to me. And I think you totally nailed it when you said that the Bitcoin community has been so supportive. And I would use that word to describe them as well. And it seems like we have brought like true passion and a true desire to educate, people's families, or educate, kids and adults. And it's well received. I think people, because they know that our intentions they're really true. So we've been able to build up these relationships. And it's also opened up my mind to things that I didn't realize or I didn't pursue previous to getting to meet all of these different people. Like one of our good friends now lives out in France and has a podcast, the Once Bitten podcast. And listening to his podcast, oftentimes he talks about like different types of education methods. And being an educator myself, I really only believed in traditional education. But from meeting him and meeting other Bitcoin families, a lot of Bitcoin people are, thinking outside of the box, which I applaud. And there's things like unschooling and different types of homeschooling that I didn't really know existed before. So I'm so thankful for that. And without those relationships, my mind wouldn't have even known about all these other non-traditional types of education that are working for people. And it's working really well for them. And so that I'm grateful for. Like we can educate people through our products, but in return, I'm also educated by our relationships. It's unbelievable. I mean, the people that we've met with it's definitely changed.
My answer would be the same. It's the people. You alluded to it in some of the things you were saying. Just being able to, reach out to people, just like we had never met before. Just kind of quick DM, hey, I think you'd be interested, and boom, here we are today. And that's how the majority of people are. And I think Bitcoin Twitter sometimes gets a bad rap from the outside of being angry or hostile or whatever, and it couldn't be further from the truth, especially when you meet people in person, like everybody who's going to the conference will see. That those little interactions were for us the tipping point of being able to say, okay, this isn't just a fun side thing anymore. Like we can build this into something that's going to let us live the life we want to live going forward and for our family. And so being able to interact with people from across the world, like it's mind-boggling to think of all the places the game's gone over the past 2 or 3 weeks. For a while now, we've been partners with the Built with Bitcoin Foundation.
Oh, I'm so glad you're bringing that up. I was just going to talk about that too.
So one of the relationships we've built is with Yusuf and Built with Bitcoin. And for those that don't know, they're an awesome organization. Started off doing work in Africa. Now they're doing some work in other places as well. But they're using Bitcoin to build schools to be able to teach not just about financial education in Bitcoin, but truly just schools for these villages in Africa. I believe they have 6 of them that have been built over the past few years. And so over the past 2 or 3 weeks, Yusuf and the team have been down there. They've had our book and game with them to leave at the sites, been sharing videos and pictures. And it's crazy to think that some random thing that came out of our heads is now, sitting on shelves and in a schoolhouse in the middle of Africa somewhere that, we could have never imagined, but it's helping these kids and these families who many of which don't even know English. But they're translating it and being able to learn from it. And it's kind of crazy that, just reaching out to somebody on Twitter one day could lead to that sort of interaction and being able to see something that we created in some far off place that we hope to visit someday soon.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, that story is awesome. Yeah, and I think like you guys both kind of pointed to it a little bit, but I think one thing that, Bitcoin and being in the space has taught me is kind of, focusing a little bit more on the future and like having a longer time horizon. But I feel like the more that I kind of focus on that and think about, my decisions that I make daily, it seems like everything just kind of starts to happen quicker. Like, I mean, you guys are a prime example, right? So, I mean, what you said, you started this 2 years ago and you already have games, you have a big partnership and everything like that. And you're now, Scott, you're working on it full time and you've got it all the way in Africa and various schools and everything like that. So I think, the more you, oddly enough, it seems like the more you focus on like the long term and down the road, the quicker things happen for you. You just blink and it's already there. So that's awesome. So good on you guys for that. So, but yeah, so I guess looking forward a little bit, Bitcoin Miami is only a couple weeks away. So what do you guys got planned for that? And I know you mentioned a little bit earlier you guys have a booth. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, we are excited.
No, we're excited. We've got a booth. So this year there's a whole bazaar area that they're setting up. There'll be about 40 vendors of various types Bitcoin products and non-Bitcoin products. Like the key there is everybody's accepting Bitcoin. And so we will be at booth number 32. I don't know the exact location, but if you can't find us, that's the number. But we'll be there. We'll have our book. We'll have our game. We also resell
let's show that
a product called That's Ledger. So for those who are familiar with it, MTC BTC out of the UK created this about the same time we launched the game. And so we've become friends. It's a fun way for maybe you're a parent and you give your kid an allowance in Bitcoin. So there's a gamification to it through these two little ledger products that come with a bunch of different stickers as well that help the process along. So we have those three things, and we will have about 5 brand new products that some are limited just for the conference, but one of them is, we haven't announced any of these, so this is the first time people have seen it. We have a nice little Bitcoin monster hat. So our purple Satoshi monster on a hat there will be part of the swag that'll be available at the booth. So 4 or 5 other things in the store for that launch. So we will be there every day. And so don't hesitate to come on by and say hi.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'll definitely have to stop by. I'm going to snag one of those hats too. So just put one to the side for me.
Nice.
What days are you guys going to be there? Are you guys going to be there all the 6th through the 9th or 7th through the 9th?
Yeah, so we get in the late on the 5th, so we'll be at the booth the 6th, 7th, 8th. The 9th will be either a partial day, or we fly out late afternoon on the 9th. So I know it's the concert day anyway, so I'm not sure how many people will be hanging around the bazaar. So we'll be there. There's also, for those who are interested in the education side of things, on the evening of the 7th at 7 p.m. I don't have the location yet. A bunch of educators that are doing Bitcoin educators are putting together a meetup. So if somebody's out there that's interested in joining for that, feel free to shoot a DM my way, either my personal DM or the SH Amory one, and I can keep you up to date on where that location will be. But myself, Dusan, who's out of Slovakia, he's heading it up. He has a mission to educate 100 million people by 2030 in Bitcoin. So he's getting into the schools over there, and some friends from El Salvador and Daniel from France, and just a lot of educators coming together to talk and chat and have drinks. So anybody's welcome to come join us.
Awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe I'll stop by as well. All right. So, yeah, I definitely will. I'm stopping by the booth. I'm getting one of those hats. That's for sure. So.
I think you're going to like a few of the other products too then.
Yep.
All right. I'm excited. Yeah, I'll definitely come by and come get some. So one last question to wrap it up. Just a general, what makes you guys most excited about Bitcoin for the rest of the year, 2022 and beyond?
I think let me go first.
Sure.
I think it'd probably be a more personal thing. I think since, January was when I officially went full-time on SH Amory. So I think just having the first full year of us being able to have one of us 100% focused on what we're doing. So it's obviously not Bitcoin price related, but the price does help the eyeballs coming to see us.
Yeah.
So as that, hopefully we come out of the nice sideways action for the past, 6 months or so will help that process. But just we're both excited, especially to be able to focus, be able to launch these new products. We have some other things in store for after the conference, both physical products as well as some other partnerships that we're hopefully working on. So just being able to see where the rest of 2022, and going back to your comment earlier, kind of that longer horizon, we're not just in it for this year, but we know some of these things will take longer than this year, but having the stones in place to be able to make sure that grows from there. So that's for me.
That was a good one. Well, at the end of this year, and this goes forward to the next several years, I think the more that people are becoming aware of Bitcoin and in our current, financial and global issues going on, I think that, Bitcoin it's looking appealing to people for different reasons. And I think that the more eyeballs that go on it, the more people are going to trust it. They're going to be interested in it, and they're probably going to want to educate their kids about it. So I'm hoping that in turn, SH Amory will continue to be the business that people go to for fun educational products on Bitcoin. I think sometimes we're a little early to this space. We're the only company out there that's doing educational kid products, but I don't think that's going to be the case in a couple years. I think we'll be right in the market with a lot more people interested in what we have.
Yep. And we're happy to work together.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're happy to always work together. So just like, working with Sats Ledger, some other people. So if you're out there and you have ideas, whether it's products or other things, like I said, our DMs are open everywhere. So feel free to shoot us a note.
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely refer you guys to anybody that I hear interested in these kind of products as well. So Scott, to your point, I know you're gonna kill it first year. Going into full time with this. You guys are already doing great things, it sounds like. So I expect to see it keep rapidly growing. And yeah, I mean, I think the price action hopefully will help. And to Mallory's point there as well, I think adoption is rapidly increasing just because of everything that's going on too. So, big things ahead for Bitcoin. And I think, I think we're all kind of here a little early, or at least it seems to feel that way. So that's awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining so much. And I'm Brandon at Green Candle IT. This is Scott and Mallory. If you guys want to give any last closing remarks, where to find you, and everything else.
Yeah. Shout out the website.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Thanks for having us. Thanks everybody.
Thank you. This was great.
Listening and watching. So on Twitter, the Shamory handle is Play Shamory, SHAMORY. The website is just shamory.com. That's where you can find all of our products on there. And like we just mentioned, we'll be in Miami as well. If you want to get something through the website, you can use the promo code Green Candle. That'll get you 10% off. So feel free to use that to your heart's content. Anybody out there, but we both look forward to meeting so many new people and seeing some old friends in about a week and a half or so, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that's it for me. And that's it for Scott and Mallory. Thank you guys so much again. And catch us all at Bitcoin Miami. Come up to their booth, buy some swag.
Yeah, come see us.
Yeah, buy the game for friends and family and everybody else. So
exactly.